I've mixed up a red here and we're going to start putting this on. You can see the power up against the green, which is a complementary colour. I still didn't realise how much from the original sketches, how much that influenced me, that poppy fields. And what we'll probably find happens is that the red actually goes a fair way across the greens. We're going to put another layer of red on. So at this stage it's really just working across this in a very loose fashion, but quite thinly. So this is done quite loosely at the moment, and it will dull off quite a bit because of the complementary colour behind, which is green. But we can take it to that stage at the moment, and then I want to start to look at around here and see how that's going to fit in. Yep, that's okay for now. I'm quite happy with what's going on at the moment. What we've got is some nice colours coming through the reds, and it gives me this feel of a fairly windswept sort of feel about the whole thing with the trees here. And it's still retaining quite a lot of its traditional values where we started. We'll need to loosen up just a little bit here. So what I'm going to look at doing here is I'm going back into my dark colour, and I'm going to do a very loose tip of the brush work just up into this part, using a green, a little bit of blue into there, and just reiterate those little bits through here. And I think I might just take this up. I'll explain this a little bit in a minute. It seemed a bit incongruous, but I think it'll work. Just working back very loosely. We're not trying to overpower anything we've done, because that red's still a bit wet and we just need to be careful there. Back into this very loosely. I'll explain this a little bit later what we're going to do. So I think that's fine. Where this colour has come across, I'm just going back into this just a little bit there, and I think just blend it off a little bit with a bit of kitchen roll, and you can see the other colours coming through if you do this. And you can take back up a little bit. Not too thickly at this stage. So that's working quite well. I'm going to change now my brush. And I'm going to use here a mixture of purple and blue, darker colour. You can see this lovely blue. See this, what happens? It's purple around here, because we're going to lay in the sky a lighter shade later, painting wet into wet in that part, wet onto dry, through the top, framing the whole thing at that stage. What we do now is just let that dry just a little bit. Right, I've mixed up a lighter blue here, and I'm going to block this in a little bit more. Whilst I'm doing this, one of the reasons I've put the frame around here is that it does hold this vision of the poppy fields in and creates a separate frame to the main frame when we actually finish the painting. Colour-wise, what I've tended to do is use a dark green around the bottom, which is holding in the lighter green, and on the top I've used a purple blue that holds in the blue of the sky area. And I think it's better, in fact, if you actually try to marry the two in rather than go dark green here and blue here. I don't think that works. And lighter colour borders, again, doesn't hold you in sufficiently. So, as an explanation, that is, in my experience, I feel, the way to do it. Although I'm blocking this in, I'm leaving behind quite a bit of the original colour that comes through. Darken it slightly. To get back to nearer the colour we first had, perhaps. I'm taking a little bit of damp kitchen roll here. Don't push hard on this part because you'll create marks and take too much colour off. Very gently does it. You can curtail your enthusiasm a little bit here. Through to the end, and we'll stop at that stage. I think we'll leave it just there. Right, what I'm going to do now, I've got ordinary palette knife here. I'm going to scrape back through the acrylic, and what it will do is expose the green below, which are the oil bars we put on earlier. So I've scraped a little bit off here, and what I'm going to do is make a few more marks before we go to the next stage. I've got a blue, back onto the blue here. I'm taking my blue, very tip of the brush, through here. Just a few marks to get that blue in. Just hardly touch this. Just sufficient to show what happens there. So that little bit of blue, I think, will help us. Be careful, we mustn't take it too far, because again, we'll start to obliterate things that are underneath, and that's certainly, we don't want that. I'm going to change brushes here and go back into a dark. Again, marks here, tip of the brush, and it's picking up the original hedgerow in a way that we first had on the watercolour and the oil painting that we did. Again, not too much here. I'm going to add some water to it, and again flick through, let it run through. That's quite loose, so that should actually, there's some oil bar there, that shouldn't stick too much to that point. This tree is much smaller than the original painting, and in a way I think we can afford just a little bit more to emphasise this, but again not too much. I think I'd like just to link that through very carefully here. So abstract painting very often is the energy you put into it, the stepping back, looking at it and going forward with a mark to re-emphasise what the whole thing you feel about it. Having said that and talking to you now, I'm looking across at this point, and I think here again I would like where the blues come across just to re-emphasise the edges of the trees we saw here and loosen it off a little bit just at the tip here. Just be a little careful, that will dry in fairly well, bit of hand rubbing. What we're now going to do is cover back with a red. I'm going to start on the orange side and blend through to a red, and bearing in mind how much we leave behind of the green. So very gently now, just coming through and just working our way through from orange through to red. I've broken the border down here just to stop one straight line. What I'm doing here is going with oil bar. What you'll see happens, it flattens the area compared to marks that have been made with the acrylic. And also what you can then start to do is make marks down in the foreground, and it overlays that acrylic in a much denser way. See what's happened here is that the initial conception of the brilliant red poppies has overtaken the greens that we put on the studies. You can still see the acrylic coming through in various places, and the whole thing, although we've hidden the greens up, you still retain these sort of glimpses of the foliage, if you like, through an acrylic, through the oil. I think we're getting near the end of the oil bar sequence. I'm just switching across here before I do that. I think it's quite nice to loosen this up. So we've got blending marks, finish. So I think that's sufficient on the oil bar. What I'm now going to look toward doing is looking at the whole thing and making marks to pull it together to finish. That's just quite a bright bit of green. Pull it in just very gently. And all we're doing is pulling the whole thing together with final marks to hold it in. However small, will actually help. But be very careful and very tentative. I think a final few splatter marks on here, we can probably finish the painting, and very often, if one isn't careful, we can just go that little bit too far. It won't help you. These will just pull down into this, just help you a little bit. Loosen up the areas a little bit here. Very carefully. I think I'll call it a day there. Yep, fairly happy with that. Here we got the finished picture. What did it look like to you now? Is it still a load of twaddle? Have you understood it? Do you like it? Do you like the form, the line, the colours we've put on? Hope it gives you some inspiration to go forward and have a go yourself.
Now available to buy. Try these techniques at home whenever you wish. The extended DVD of today's workshop is now available from the Painting and Drawing channel. For further information and to order your copy, go to www.paintingdrawingchannel.com.